Welcome back to Inside the Mirror podcast. Today I have a super special guest, somebody I connected with online, and he happens to be a mega superstar, Mr. David Angelo. David is an entrepreneur, founder of the David and Goliath marketing agency. He's been named LA's Entrepreneur of the Year. He's worked with brands from Coke to Reebok, Lexus, Kia Motors. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Jack in the Box is one I really enjoyed because they have great tacos. But anyways, David is behind some of the biggest brands in the world. David, thank you for sharing your time with me today, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good, man. How you doing? Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. So let's just get right into it. Kind of give us the brief 3 to 5 minute rundown of who you are, how you came to be, kind of personal and career history.
Oh, wow. Shit. 3 minutes? All right. Let me see.
You can make it 13 if you want.
All right. Well, let me just start with the notion of, I believe that everything in life starts with a core truth of who you are as a person. Forget about brands for a second. Forget about your followers and all of that. I think that ultimately at the end of the day, when you have a clear idea of who you are and what you stand for, that becomes the blueprint for life. And so for me, my blueprint starts with where I'm from. I am one of 7 kids. I'm the middle child. They used to call me 3 up, 3 down, because I'm number 4. I grew up in a small town right outside of Oakland, California. I'm a big Raiders fan, like super Raiders fan. You know, like if you were to cut open my heart, it would actually bleed silver and black. But I've been that way since I was a kid. And somebody asked me once, they said, "Hey, are you upset that they moved?" And I'm like, "No, I moved 3 times." So ultimately at the end of the day, you buy into a mindset, and from there, you know, you're just a fanatic. So I grew up in this big family. We didn't have a lot. My dad was a teamster, a truck driver. He was Filipino. And it's hard to sort of tell based on my the way I look. I'm half Filipino and half Portuguese. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I took the Portuguese route, and my brothers and sisters look very Filipino. And so one of the things that my dad taught us growing up was that you never forget where you're from, and that you own that, you know. And that's why I'm so proud to talk about where I'm from. And so we grew up in a poor neighborhood, or at least it wasn't it was below middle class. And my dad was very scrappy, very very hardworking. And I'd say one of the biggest lessons I learned was he was also a Marine who got shot up pretty bad in the Korean War, and he had severe PTSD. And I don't know if you know much about PTSD, but it ends up being a war for the family as much as it is for the person who experienced that. And so it was a very tough time for all of us. And but we, took away these lessons from my father of never forget where you're from and always give 100% of your heart and soul. And that challenge that I went through as a kid really gave me an opportunity to, as I said earlier, make a choice. You can either look at the challenge as something that's going to hold you back, or realize that it's purposeful and that it's there for you to learn a lesson of strength, a lesson of authenticity, a lesson of resilience, all those great qualities. And for me, at a time when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, and we were just barely scraping by, I heard this voice, and it wasn't a voice that was, an invisible friend or anything like that. It was a voice of a higher knowing. And I think we all can relate to that voice. It's the one that says you can when you think you can't. It's the one that tells you to do the right thing as opposed to, be something you're not. And it's that voice of, it's something that you can't even explain. It's just this irrefutable truth that's in all of us. You could call it your gut, your instinct, your higher self, your God, your source, or whatever. But when you tap into that voice, it's undeniable. It just takes a tremendous amount of bravery to trust that, because it's not this thing that you can see, right? And so hearing that voice for me as a kid that told me I was going to be okay was my saving grace. And I've made plenty of mistakes along the way, times when I didn't listen to that voice. Sure. And I got kicked out of high school in a month before graduating, and I became a Teamster myself, where I was driving a forklift truck for a local distillery, loading trucks from 6 at night to 6 in the morning. And it was not a good sort of path for me, right? I was slowly going down this dark hole of depression and just doing a lot of really crazy stuff. And then it was one night I was working at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and the voice came back. And this time it was pretty loud, and it said, and I remember as clear as day, it said, "This is not you." And when I thought about that, I thought about the notion that I'd always aspired to be a creative, an artist of sorts. And my family and everybody knew me as being this talented artist who would paint murals and drawings and all that stuff. And the voice said that if you want to realize your creative dream, that you have to go back to school and get your degree and go all in. And so what I did is I made that choice of, you can either dismiss that voice and say, that's just a bunch of, BS, or you just go, shit, here's an opportunity to turn that thing up. And I just turned it up. And from there, I turned it up and I got my degree, graduated from the college I was supposed to go to, called the Academy of Art in San Francisco. And then a postcard showed up at my house, and I found out 20 years later who sent it, but it showed up and it read, "Do what you fear, watch it disappear." And I thought there's something really cool about this postcard, because when you think about it, when you do what you fear, you realize that it's something that you created in yourself, right? It's not something that is, set in stone out there. Right. That fear is man-made, self-created. And when I realized that, I said, okay, well, I'm just going to lean totally into that and do the scariest thing in the world. And at the time, living in this neighborhood, San Leandro, which is right next to Oakland, to me, stepping outside of that neighborhood would be pretty scary for me, right? And so I just went all in. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go to New York. And so I packed up my bags, my sleeping bag, my tennis speed, and my basketball, and I moved to New York City, not knowing anyone, and got a job on Madison Avenue, working at a advertising agency called DDB. And at the time, I didn't know anyone in New York. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I just knew that it was a crazy city, and that it would beat the shit out of you, if you let it. And, luckily for me, I had a lot of conditioning, and I had a lot of strength and resilience, and I just worked my ass off. I worked 24/7. I did not think twice about, giving anything less than 100%. I worked every single day, every weekend. And there were people that I used to work with that would complain that I worked too much, but I didn't care, because I had something to prove. I was that kid who got kicked out of high school, and I also wanted to, show my father and my mother that I could create a living for myself and be successful. And so what happened was, created a campaign for the New York Lottery. The tagline was, "Hey, you never know." And it was kind of a testament to my life, of that great things can happen. The possibilities are infinite. And then I got a call from the Clinton Gore camp, George Stephanopoulos, my partner, and I. He deserves a lot of credit, because he's the one who sort of connected us to them. But we got a call from them one day asking if we'd create some work for the '92 campaign, which we did. And fortunately, he won. And then that just kind of, skyrocketed my career from there. And so worked in New York at places like Shite Day, and with some of the greatest mentors in the world. And then I moved to LA the first time to work on Lexus. And then I got hit by the earthquake in '93, moved back to New York. I became executive creative director at a pretty big shop called Cliff Freeman and Partners. And that's where all the most humorous advertising was being done. Particularly, one in particular is Little Caesars Pizza, among others. And I really worked there for 5 years, had a great time working for this amazing leader called Cliff Freeman. And then I just got kind of tired and burnt out, and because I was, for 10 years, I didn't stop working. So I decided to take some time off. My wife, who I met in New York at the time, we were expecting our first child, and I decided to take some time off and change diapers and freelance and all that. And then I got a call while living in New York from a good friend in Los Angeles who said, yo, I got this opportunity for you. Kia Motors, which is a small car brand in America at the time, this is in November of 99, wants to hire you and give you the chance to start your own agency. And, you know, that doesn't happen often. You know, there's a whole story in that which would, you know, kind of blow you away. But, you know, the universe just sort of served that up. And I jumped on it. I moved from New York to LA in 99 and started a company called David and Goliath. And my goal wasn't to create another ad agency per se, because, you know, the world doesn't need another ad agency. And what I wanted to do is I realized that after working for all these cool companies and we were all doing great creative work, I never knew what any of the companies stood for outside of just doing a commercial or doing a print ad or trying to win an award. And I thought there has to be something more to this. And so I created David and Goliath as a means to help me live my truth and inspire others to do the same, both people and brands. And so we launched in November of 99, and our mission was simply to help people and brands take on their biggest Goliaths in life and business and step into potential. And we do so with a one-word philosophy called brave. And so brave is not this, the real interpretation of brave for us is it's not about jumping out of a plane or swinging blindly into the fray. It's about having the courage to be who you are, because that takes a lot of work. It's so easy to be something you're not, especially in today's day and age, right? And
so true.
When you look around, you see all the fake news, fake people, fake, you know, fake everything. The world is starving for something real, starving for authenticity. And so for us 20 years ago, that was very important, because if we all live our authentic truth, whether you're a person or a brand, knowing that you're going to slip up and screw up and fall down and all that, you know, but if we all, you know, embrace that authentic truth in us, then we will all be better off for it, because from there we will create from that truth, and whatever that may be, whether it's a campaign or a movement or whatever. And so our goal was to create some initiatives that would allow people to live that spirit of bravery from the inside of our company out. And so we put together a series of initiatives, from the 10 brave ways that are painted on our wall outside of our kitchen, to a brave stage where we ask people to get up and sort of talk about their own truth to the entire company of 200 people, to putting your greatest fear, posting it on a wall to serve as a reminder of what you need to overcome in life, because we believe that if you overcome that fear that you've been holding on to, then that's going to free you up for more positive energy, more creativity, etc. And then 4 years ago, we decided to take our philosophy outside the walls of our company, because bravery isn't something that we own, it's for everyone. We all have that inside us. And so I took up meditation like 5 years ago, which is a tough thing to do, right?
Sure.
And within that space of meditation, I don't know how much you know about it or if you meditate, but the idea is in meditation, it's really about the absence of thought, right? And if you push away all of those things that keep you from, you know, that keep you sort of tethered to the existence here, like your blame, your shame, your guilt, your fear, all of that stuff that's part of life conditioning. If you push all of that out, the void that's left is absolutely powerful. That is the sort of source that you truly are before you inherited all that other stuff. And within that space, one day, a vision happened, and it was kind of a vision that was very different. It wasn't like an actual picture per se. It was a knowing that I was supposed to adopt an orphanage in Africa. And you know, coming out of that space, there's no room for doubt, no room for fear or any of that, or questions, because those things weren't in that space. So that knowing, picture, visual, whatever, was so pure and so real that all I knew is that I had to do something. So I talked to a friend who introduced me to this woman who at the time was running or still is, running a nonprofit in Sierra Leone called Shine on Sierra Leone, and a school called Muddy Lotus. And at the time, they were up against Ebola and in danger of the school closing down. So we basically put together, as an agency, we put together this concept called Today I'm Brave. And we made 300 t-shirts, these beautiful manifesto cards with 5 statements on the back of it. And then we created an educational curriculum to put inside their school so that they could take on their biggest challenge and keep that school open in hopes that it would offer some really awesome transformation for them. And so happened was we received a film a few months later talking about their transformation, how it just completely took over their community, their school and their community. And once we saw that, we were pretty much in tears, and we said, shit, let's roll this out to the rest of the world. So we did. And for the past 4 years, it's become this pretty rocking global movement. And we just recently, we've done things all around the world. If you go to todayandbrave.org, you can see all the stuff that we're doing right now, from raising $1 million to help build 100 roofs in Puerto Rico, to our speaker series to help raise funds for veterans and the homeless shelters. And we just recently hired a CEO out of New York who is pretty amazing outlier. Her name is Lindsay Stein, and we're going to take it up a notch, out of New York. So that's kind of who we are as an agency. We have brands like Kia Motors, Jack in the Box, the Lottery, HBO, Lay's, Frito-Lay's, which is in Dallas, and a host of nonprofits from IAVA, because of my experience of veterans with my father. I'm on the board of directors for them, to the Ad Council, to all these other pretty awesome nonprofits. And then for the industry, because we work in an industry that is very, I'd say, very egocentric and ego-driven.
Sure.
Our goal was to help evolve the industry by recognizing creators from all around the world who are creating for the greater good. And so we created this thing called the Conscious Creative Movement with the 4 A's, which is the Association of Advertising Agencies. I always get it wrong, but it's the 4 A's. It's the big.
Say that 4 times fast, huh?
Yeah. They're going to hate me for this, but I'm on the board of directors for the 4 A's. But I love them because they stand for something, and they asked us to create a creative portal, that would enable them to talk about creativity in a way that no one else had. And so that's what we do for the industry. Today I'm Brave is what we do for the world. And that kind of, I think that was a pretty simple and easy thing to track, but that was the
100%.
chronology of who I am, why I'm here, and why I really believe at the end of the day that, if you are in a position to achieve success in an industry, then I really believe that it's in everyone's best interest that you give back, and that you give back to the people who have given to you, and you give back to others who have yet to achieve that success. And that's what I'm doing. As a CEO, I sold my company a few years back, 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
I sold it to InOcean Worldwide, which is the in-house agency for Kia and Hyundai. Okay. And I sold. They're pretty amazing people, and they asked me what was important to me, and I said, I want complete autonomy so I can build the brand that you acquired. And I need you to help support Today I'm Brave. And they said, absolutely. And so my goal now as the CEO and the creative chairman of David and Goliath, and the founder of Today I'm Brave, is to help grow both of them so that we can help unlock bravery in people and brands and organizations and anyone out there that is up against a big challenge in business and in life. And my goal is to do that for as long as I live. And that's where we are today.
I love it. You know what? The thing that originally connected me to you on LinkedIn, just reading about you, was I think we have one similarity. I'm sure there's many, but one that sticks out to me is that you, in my opinion, and I think you would agree, is that you sound like your life has been about impact,
Yeah,
not about personal success, but about impacting other people. And that's
totally.
something that I'm extremely passionate about. Is with anything I do in life, when I die, I
Yeah,
simply want to know that I made an impact. And I think
absolutely.
that's what I hear throughout your entire story is impact, impact, impact. I never heard you say, I wanted to make $1 million. I wanted to buy a big, it never was about just you.
Yeah.
And I read a book. I used to work for Yum Brands, and I read a
Yep.
book by the CEO at the time, David Novak. I don't know if you're
Yep.
aware of David.
Yep. Yep.
He wrote a book called Taking People With You, right?
Yep.
And the premise being is that success does not come and is not enjoyable even in a lonely, isolated bubble of you, right?
Yeah.
Success and true success, however you define that, is done with others. And I love that you
Absolutely.
consistently said that throughout that.
Oh, shoot. I didn't even notice it. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the
That's why
day,
I'm here.
yeah, right. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when you think about this,
Mhm.
is another process that I really love meditation for the most part
Mhm.
because it gives you an opportunity. It's kind of like meeting with a sensei, right?
Mm.
And the inner sensei, right?
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that I discovered is it's enabled me to go to a place to tap into a higher sense of who I really am. And I believe
Mm.
that's in all of us, right?
Uh-huh.
I truly believe
Mhm.
that's in all of us.
I do too.
And when you understand, when you come into that knowing, you start to realize it's no longer just about you. And think about this for a second. You come into this world with this energy, whatever that energy is, right? It is
Mhm.
energy, right?
Mhm.
And when
Sure.
you think about energy, you break it down. Energy is infinite. Energy can neither be destroyed nor created. There's no up or down. There's no east or west or south or
Right.
whatever. And that little piece of energy that's in that little body of yours or that body of ours is because that energy, that little small piece of energy,
Mhm.
is just as big as the energy that's around you
Mhm.
because it's infinite, right?
Mhm.
Even
Mhm.
a small microcosm of energy that's infinite is energy is energy. So it's
Mhm.
all connected. And
Mhm.
when you understand that you come into this world with that energy, and then what happens is all of a sudden somebody tells you, don't touch that, drive this, look like this, hate these people, like these people. This is
Mhm.
what you should look like. This is what you should, how much money you should make. This is how you should, who you should marry, etc. And if you don't do all
Oh
that
man.
shit, you are stupid.
Yep.
And the problem is all of that stuff is learned behavior, which
Mhm.
can certainly be unlearned.
Mhm.
And when you unlearn all that, you realize what you were to begin with, which is
Mhm.
the energy, which is
Mhm.
infinite, which is
Mhm.
holy fucking shit, which is infinite wisdom, infinite courage, infinite love, all of the things that make up each and every one of us that we somehow forgot.
Mhm.
And so the goal is to help people remember that
Mhm.
and to help people remember that it's not about me, it's about we, because we
Mm.
are one, we are connected. One
Mhm.
piece of energy is as much part of the master energy. So that makes us one,
Mhm.
right? And my
Mhm.
daughter asked me once, she said, Daddy, what happens when we die? And I go, think of a balloon. When a balloon pops, where does the rubber go? To the ground.
Mhm.
Where does the air go? It becomes one with everything. There's no separation between this air and that air, or the balloon air versus the master air. It's all one. Just like when you die, where does your energy go? It becomes part of the master energy. So
Mhm.
doesn't that make us all one?
Mhm.
And it's pretty. And when you say yes, well, who is that says yes?
Mhm.
It's the
Mm.
master energy,
Mm.
because anything outside of that would look at it with through the eyes of a human, through the human experience.
Sure.
And so I look at all that and I go, well, where does all that come from? Where does all that information, where does that knowing come from?
Mhm.
um, the knowing has always been with you long before you were born, and it'll continue long after you go. Whether you believe in that or not,
Mhm.
it's okay.
Mhm.
But that is, to me, that is what I know,
Mhm.
and I believe that if if I can go into a meditation and say this, give me a 3-step process for how I can sort of use as a blueprint or a guide for my life. And it was just like this. Number 1 is know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Know who you are. You are that energy, right? Number 2, live it in everything you do, in the company that you build, in the friends that you have, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, help everyone realize number 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Know who they are.
Yeah,
Right.
that's it. And so that 3-step process, I thought about that. I was like, holy shit. Yes, but of course. There doesn't have to be a 4th step. There doesn't have to be a 5th step, because if your job, your goal is to know who you are, come into that awareness, right? That's what self-awareness is all about. And that's 100%. Why you hear all these people talking about woke, awakened, or whatever.
Right.
You know, the true meaning of your purpose is to simply remember who you really are. And who you really are is this badass, infinite amount of bravery, creativity, wisdom, love, all of those amazing things that come from this beautiful feeling called empathy. Right? And if you and when you embrace that, then what happens is all of the things that don't come from that, the things that are more man-made and ego-driven from the life experience, will all of a sudden go to the wayside, along with the people who embrace that, because you no longer want to hang with that energy, right?
Right.
And it will unlock another sort of level where you're going to start to meet people who are from that sort of thought process, right? The one that was here the minute you came here, right? All those people who have also awakened, who also know that we are stronger than me, who also know what's going on right now in this world, is that this is a watershed moment for us to awaken. And awakening isn't about, oh, I awakened, that's it, I'm awake. No, awakening is basically is remembering what your soul always knew. And that is, we are one, we are in this together. And that, you know, the key to this is to let go faster. Let go of your past, let go of whatever mistakes you've made, let go of all that. It doesn't mean you have to forget it. Right. But don't hold on to it and continue to hurt others with it.
Right.
And so in that process of letting go faster, think about this for a second. A lot of people just hold on to shit, you know, whether it's my trauma as a kid, you know, I can certainly hold on to that, but I have shifted that and looked at it as a blessing, as something that helped create, you know, strength in me to give me the opportunity to live a journey of bravery and live a journey of lessons and be able to look at my success and go, holy shit, had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be here. And I wouldn't have met all the beautiful people that I've met, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, and I wouldn't be on this call right now. And so I look at that and I go, gratitude. How can you have gratitude for something horrible that happened to you? So where does that come from?
Right.
Well, that comes from a higher knowing, and that comes from the infinite side of love, which is about forgiveness and self-forgiveness. So it doesn't mean you can't go to Vegas with this awareness. It doesn't mean you can't be a Cowboys fan. It doesn't mean you can't be a Raiders fan. It doesn't mean you can't like get drunk and have a hangover. Those are just life lessons that you got to learn. You go, okay, shit, I got drunk. Maybe I should quit drinking, you know?
Right. There are consequences.
Yeah. You know, but having that sense of awareness of the choice, you can either choose this or this. You can choose to react, or you can choose to act, you know? And I really believe that having that, higher sense of awareness will give you a choice of, do I want to work with a client that is, you know, demonstrative? Do I want to invite negative people to my wedding? Do I want to surround myself with people who are egocentric? And that's a choice. That's a choice that you make, right? And by taking that look from a higher perspective, to look at it and go, I could see what's happening here. And it's less about judging that person. It's more about just observing, and being that sort of observer where you can look at it and go, okay, I see the lesson here. All right, let me see how I can respond to that. Right. And that to me requires a tremendous amount of bravery. That's where bravery comes full circle.
I love it. And don't you think, I mean, I'm assuming you would agree, don't you think that when you embrace that and when you awaken and realize who you are and start to live in that purpose, and I've heard it said that authenticity is where joy begins. I've heard someone say that. I thought that was super cool. Is when you become authentically you is when joy starts to come to your life. And like you said, I like what you said, is that there are going to be people who are negative and egotistical and anti what we're about, not positive, not for other people. But when we live our lives with gratitude and empathy and positivity, we can't help but exude that. And it's a ripple, as you said. Energy moves, and our energy, as it ripples through the world, it's going to impact people, whether they even notice it consciously at the moment or not.
Seeds,
right?
You're dropping seeds, you're planting seeds, right?
Exactly.
And somebody's planting seeds with you, right? And it's and it works on so many levels. And so go back to impact, right? I think you've got to ask yourself, what is the intent? So if the intent and motivation for doing something, like for instance, in our business, it's advertising, right? Or that's what we do.
Right.
But it doesn't need to be the negative form of that, because there's such a perception out there, sort of a stereotype that people are just trying to sell stuff to you. And that's part of the past, right? Just like, just like walking into a saloon back in the 1800s and having guns on you was part of that. That was part of the reality then. Selling was part of the reality, I'd say 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I really believe at the end of the day that you can shift the perception of that by, instead of trying to make ads, you make a difference. And when you make a difference, the intent is, I'm doing it not for myself. I'm doing it because I know that, go back to the 3-step process, that if I help unlock that truth in other people, it will create a ripple effect for impact, not just in their lives, but for their communities and the rest of the world. And hopefully they will take that, and maybe they won't know it, but hopefully they'll take that and influence somebody else in a way that all of a sudden it may trigger the awakening. And once the awakening happens, that portal goes like this. Poop. Once that portal happens, there's no way you can go back. There's no way. There is never, when you look at the difference between Hitler and Mother Teresa, there's no way that the two of them could have existed in the same room together without being affected by each other, right? And so you either are attracted to that vibration, or you're not. And so what happens is, when you make that conscious effort to be, a person of purpose and impact, well, then there's no way that you can go back to that other way, because the answer is only forward, and that the intent and motivation for creating true impact in the world is not self-serving. It's simply to help other people unlock that awakening in them. And if we can get more people to awaken, then I truly believe there'll be more cures. There'll be, greater harmony. It'll be systemic racism will be a thing of the past, because the reason why those things exist right now, because people don't know who they really are, and they're swimming, and they're just swimming in the muck of this life experience out of fear. And that's what fear is. The fear is the life muck. And so when you look at something, it either comes from those two places of ego or empathy. And you can, for ego, when somebody acts from that, you see it. You see it. Truth. When somebody acts from empathy, you feel it. You can't fake empathy. You can't fake it. If you do, everyone's going to know, right? And so helping people get to that place of self-awareness and of who they really are, and knowing that impact isn't just this thing that I want to sell you a good, I want to sell you something, a service or whatever, and then I'm gone, right? Impact really is I'm going to help you unlock the possibilities of who you are in hopes that you can unlock the possibilities of your life, your communities, and the world. And in helping people do that, they will also notice the impact that they're creating in the world and be able to sort of really open that portal up a little bit more. So it makes it their driving, their main force or their main sort of intent in everything that they do. So from that, you end up creating and manifesting, a better world for others. And what happens there is it ends up lifting you along the way. If your intent was just to create a better world for yourself, well, then that's self-serving. That goes back to ego, and which is more man-made. And at the end of the day, I don't think you're ever going to experience true happiness from that or true impact, because it'll just be momentary. It won't be sustainable.
Right. Well, I think, man, you get me so excited, man, because we have so many similar thoughts. And when I think of impact, for me, and I think maybe you can speak on this, when I think of impact, I try to simplify it to as simple as possible so that it's actionable. And when I think of it, it's leaving every interaction I have with another person, it's leaving them better than I found them, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's through the tactic of listening, encouraging, whatever I can do, right?
Yeah.
That's a real impact, because they can take that and it's measurable, and they can take that and then it ripples on continuously.
So let's talk about how measuring impact with people, because it's hard for you to measure your own impact.
Sure.
Right? Unless you write down and keep a journal and say, okay, I was an asshole when I was 18. and now I'm doing all this great stuff. And it's the only way you're really going to be able to realize your growth, right? Because I think that it's really hard for people to look at themselves and say, oh my God, boy, have I grown. And so when you drop a seed, and you affect someone, and then you see that change, that noticeable change in a person over time, you see that they've left, maybe that seed that you sort of dropped enabled them to get out of a bad relationship. And maybe it enabled them to move from the city that they were very comfortable with, and it enabled them to chase a dream that they never would have done or chased if they were with that person and in that city. And you were able to see for yourself, and it can't be done from you, Kyle. It has to be done from here.
Right.
So there's no judgment, there's no ego involved of look what I did or any of that.
Right.
But it's done from the observation. They call it the eagle's eye, right? And you look at it from that perspective, and you can see the chapters of that person's life and how that seed affected them. And then from that, it's not about pounding your chest that you helped them. From that, you're able to see the beauty of what impact can truly do and create when you leave your ego out of it.
And I think that's very key that you said that. And a question I would even have is, does it even matter that you're able to see the impact if you know the intent of your heart when you are doing
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, does it?
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Because what happens is, go back to ego is see and empathy is feel. You feel the impact.
Right. And that goes right along with what we all like to say is, it's more blessed to give than to receive.
Absolutely.
No, it actually is, right? It actually is, because you feel that. You said, man. You feel that.
You feel that. It's kind of like the feeling behind this being a secret Santa.
I like that.
The need to go around and say, look what I did.
Right.
Is just, it's a human
It's almost
condition.
Self-destructive, isn't it?
It is. But, and you know what, man? It's hard to get away from it, because you could be so self-aware, go, oh God, I'm Buddha. And you walk out in the middle of the street floating and you get hit by a car.
Right.
You have to have what really is key, I believe, is to have that self-awareness within the world we're living in. Right. So for instance, I break it down for my daughters, and I break it down for our employees by these two very simple choices that we have. And one is called the lower self and the higher self. And the lower self basically is the human self, is where negativity and fear and blame and questions and no self-awareness comes from, right? It's the lower self, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the higher self is your higher self, right? It's your source, it's your God, it's your spirit, it's your soul, it's the infinite energy. It's the believe that you could do anything and you can achieve anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is not the question, it's the answer. It's always been the answer. And so it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to ask a question, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
need to say I'm the answer, because it already knows it's the answer. And so
Mm-hmm.
whenever somebody says, you already know it, the answer's in you already, that is your higher self. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So who said absolutely? The lower self or the higher self?
Oh man, now we're going down the rabbit hole. That would probably be the higher self,
Yeah,
wouldn't
of course it would
it? Yeah,
be.
because it already knew.
Because it already knew.
Right.
And so who said it already knew? The lower self or the higher self?
The lower self.
The lower
the
self.
higher.
The higher self.
The higher.
Right?
I like. Okay, I'm understanding
Okay.
this.
So
Right.
doesn't that make you the higher self? If you understand that?
Huh.
Of course it does.
Interesting.
You are the higher self already. You've always been the higher self. You're just living in a lower self world. And
right.
so what
you came with a soul. You had the soul.
You had the soul.
Origination, right?
Exactly. So your reaction and your response to everything in life is either going to come from the lower self or the higher self. And when you understand that,
yeah,
who would understand that?
That's powerful, man. That's powerful.
Right? And so once you understand that, you go, holy shit. The lower self doesn't know there's a higher self, because if it did, it would be the higher self.
Mm-hmm. And here you go. Let's really go into it. Can the two? Well, the two do they coexist, or are they existing separately?
Who's asking? The lower self or the higher self?
The lower self.
Okay, so what would the higher self say to that?
Oh, I would think the answer is yes. Okay. They are coexisting.
Okay, so wait, hold on. Where does I think come from? The lower self or the higher self?
The lower self.
Where does I know come from?
The higher self.
Okay, so what would the higher self say to what you just said?
It would say that the higher self is already there. The higher self already knows.
The higher self already knows.
Right.
That's it, right?
Man.
So once you understand that the jujitsu of energy, right? Once you understand that.
I like that. The jujitsu of energy. I love that.
Once you understand that, then you go, okay, so manifest from the higher self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That awareness into this lower self world of doubt and fear, and oh my God, fuck, the world's caving in, or I can't, these people are doing it to me, and all that stuff, which we're all hearing about right now. Bring that awareness into the lower self world, and once you do that, you're able to be the observer within within everything that you do, and then you're experiencing, you're really looking at life through that portal, and you're whatever you do for a living or whatever you do in life, you have that higher sense of awareness, and you're able to let go faster, right? Because you know what it is.
Accepting what it is.
Yeah. And that to me takes a tremendous amount of bravery. I go back to bravery. That's what bravery is all about, right? And so once you understand that, what you've always known, then all of a sudden you start making decisions, and you go like, I want to start a coffee shop. I want to make it cause oriented. Done. Here's the name. Done. Who do I need to get to make this happen or help this happen? I'm going to call a couple investors. I'm going to get my best friend from high school who, is all about digital. And I'm going to get this person from Costa Rica who knows coffee beans like no other. And I'm going to start a whole movement for coffee. Right. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, great. And so you're looking at that, and you're not doubting whether or not you can do it. You're laying it out just like you would build a house. You'd build a blueprint, and you're laying it out, and you're saying, okay, now can I envision that happening? So how do I envision that from a metaphorical standpoint? Well, being an artist, what I do is I tell people, I said, imagine the painting or the picture that you just shot, and I grew up being an art director. So imagine what it looks like, where you are, what the office looks like. Is it an office? What you're wearing? What's your hair look like? Do you have hair? What's the thing on the walls? Are there degrees? Are there paintings? Are there pictures of loved ones? And what are you wearing? And what does that chair look like? So imagine all of that visual picture of success and what it looks like. And, you know, if it's going to be a coffee shop, Cosmo in a coffee shop, you imagine that. Now lock in on that picture. Study everything, right? Close your eyes and study everything. See how old you are. See all the details, the pens and pencils, the computer, whatever it may be. See it. Look at the calendar. What's the day? Now you got that locked? Okay. From this point on, go fill in everything. Find the chair that you saw. Find the book that you saw on the shelf. The degree on the wall. What you're wearing. Get that hair done. Get all of that stuff. Right?
You know what's wild?
And walk to that picture.
I love it. I think you know, the world is crazy. I literally watched a video last night with a billionaire, a hip hop mogul, and he literally said this almost the exact same thing as you just said. He said in any of his ventures, he goes out there, he goes all the way to it, and he envisions everything about it, and he sees where he's at, what it's going to look like, how it's going to manifest itself. And then he says, I go backwards and I just do everything that gets me to there because I already know what it looks like.
You already know what it looks like. And when you already know what success looks like, then all of a sudden, all of those things, doubt and fear and how am I going to do this and I can't do this and all of that shit. I mean, for Christ's sakes, man, I come from nothing and I got kicked out of high school. Yeah. And I'm still incredibly grateful for the opportunity to even be here. And so I think that what happens is it's kind of like Benjamin Button. You start out with nothing and then you achieve everything. And the goal is before you die is to leave with nothing. So you have to give it all away again. And the act of giving away and the act of giving back is the thing that drives you because you are so grateful for the opportunity to achieve success that it inspires you to give back to those who haven't before you leave. Because then you'll be on to whatever else is after that. Right. There's a philosophy that I have that I share with people, and that is, you know, if you think about life, this life that you're living in, and I'm not going to get religious on people, but I'm just going to give you thoughts to consider, right? If you think of energy is infinite, right? And so let's just imagine that this life you're living in is a car, right? What kind of car you drive?
Honda Accord.
Okay. So let's just say you have a Honda Accord for 120,000 miles, right? And throughout that journey, you are the Honda Accord. Throughout that journey, you're going to see a lot. People are going to barf in your back seat. You're probably going to have, you may do a lot of crazy stuff in the front seat. Maybe it's ripped up with duct tape on the seats, whatever it may be. But that car is going to go through an experience. Then one day, that car is just going to die at 120,000 miles. Then you get out of that car into a new car, and maybe it's like a sports car. Maybe it's just like James Dean, man. You're like cruising around 25,000 miles, and you go off a cliff, right? Then you get out of that car and you get a new car, and maybe it's a camper, a RV that you take around, the world for 150,000 miles, and you meet just about everybody, right? Then that car dies, and you get out of that car and you get into a new one. And the point is, you're going to live an infinite amount of cars, right? Of all different types of cars, but the driver is the same. That's who you are. You are the driver in an infinite amount of cars. And if that is energy, you think about energy, if energy is infinite, and if you are energy, you've seen a lifeless body before, right? You see them at funerals, right? You go, hey, how come that? I'm waiting for them to just get up and say it's me. But it ain't going to happen because there's no energy there. Right. The energy's gone. Right. So when you understand the meaning of energy, and you don't have to be Einstein to understand it, but when you at least understand the basic, principle behind it, then you start putting two and two together, and you go, holy shit! So if I'm energy, that's I'm forever. Holy shit! So what do I have to fear death for? Right?
It gives you and when you have that perspective, then you can execute the things you need to here.
Then
empathy,
you can
gratitude.
Then you're Bruce Lee playing ping pong with nunchucks. And I don't know if you've ever seen that, but check it out on YouTube. Yeah. Bruce Lee playing ping pong with nunchucks. There's nothing, there's no CG there. That's just him because he's flowing, right? And
Right.
there are a lot of people that flow. There's outliers of, of all types out there. We see them every day. We just don't, some of them may be more public facing than others, but you think about the true outliers in the world, and there's a small percentage of them out there. But I believe that there's a great opportunity for us as humans, and now also as warriors of impact. And one of the things that I think about in regards to life is that life is all about casting, right? When you understand who you are, then you cast from there, just like you would a movie or a commercial. And so the key is this: take a look at the people in the world, and maybe a third of it is made up of evil people. Let's just say that's the case, right? And then you look, and those are people. It could be family, could be friends, could be just people who are trying to kill people or trying to steal from people. They're just people who are so hateful, right? That they just don't know that they're loved, right? Then you look at another third of the world as lazy people. These are people who are just afraid of their own shadow, right? And they fear change. They fear doing anything. They fear giving 100%, and you look at them, it could be family, friends, or whoever, clients. Then you look at the outliers, and it's 2%. It's like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Oprah, Jobs, Branson, whoever out there that's achieving success beyond imagination, both spiritual and professional success. And then you look at the remaining portion, and those are people that I call the yets. They have yet to discover who they really are. That if you were to go in there and just go click, it would give them permission to believe that they can do anything, right? And so the key in life is to get rid of the evil people in your life, which is a third energy. Get rid of the lazy people, a third energy. You don't have to do away with them. Just wave to them. Wave to them. Don't spend time with that 66% of energy that you're wasting every day on them. And take that energy and invest it in the yets. The people have yet to discover how amazing they are. The clients and brands and the partners have yet to achieve that. And then what's going to happen, because you're now taking 66% more energy that you've wasted on other people, and you're bringing it on inspiring and creating true impact with the small group of 31% people, right? Then what happens is you then start growing the outliers from 2% to 4%. And imagine what 2% more outliers in the world could do for us.
Sure. And that growth is exponential, right? Because as those people, as you do that for others, they do that for others, and they do that for others, and the ripple continues.
So who would say that? The lower self or the higher self?
The higher self.
Of course. There you go.
Right.
So the higher self is the answer.
Right. And I think a lot of it, sometimes it comes down to you hear this voice and you hear this voice, and you have to tune in, right, to this higher voice. You have to tune into this higher voice. And when you see it through that perspective, life flips on its head. Everything is different. I don't care about money anymore. I used to only care about money. That was my only goal in life.
And who would know that? The lower self or the higher self?
The higher self already knew that was coming.
Of course, man. But doesn't that make you the higher self? So you are flowing in the higher self right now. When you understand that, and when you realize that, then it's a whole other ball game.
And you said it earlier. It's that there is that journey though of the struggles and the things that shape you as a human. Get you to that point where you awaken.
No one is perfect. No one is perfect. No one is without misery. No one's without guilt. No one's without shame. There's a very, very famous book called Warriors of the Light by Pablo Coelho, right? The author of The Alchemist. And read what he wrote about the warriors of the light. We are all warriors of the light. We are all here to learn lessons. We've all made big mistakes. We continue to make big mistakes. We will till the day we die. That's just the nature of being human, right? We've all committed, some type of crime. We've all sort of hurt someone we love. We've all abandoned our spiritual duties. We've all had some experience with that. No one is perfect, right? And when you understand that, that's where empathy comes from, is understanding, right? You then start to realize that, holy shit, the key is to help everybody realize this, to help everyone awaken, so that pain, so they can realize that pain isn't something that's them. That pain is just something that's part of the experience. And that's it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You said it earlier. You were talking about even the 1/3 that we have to remove of the negative people that are hateful and negative. But you even said it. Even then, they don't go away. We don't write them off as lost causes.
Just wave to them.
Right? You can still impact them with the, hey,
you can still impact, hey, but just don't bring your energy into their world, and stay there for too long, because what'll happen is it'll drain you of your energy. It'll make you start to get negative and miserable because you're around that energy. Right? So your energy is affected by their energy and vice versa. Right. And so that's the sort of never-ending cycle of infinity, right? That symbol is that on each end of the spectrum is a vibration of energy, you know, a vibration, a certain level of, and we are right in the middle. And on one end is Genghis Khan, and on the other end is Gandhi. And we're either just sort of going this or that. Right? But the one thing that is certain is that is all one, and it's never ending. And that, to me, is what we're doing. We're going through this experience. We're going through this experience called life, this human experience. And I think there's this really beautiful way of expressing is that we're spirit beings living a human existence.
Absolutely.
And when you have that
a shell.
It's a shell. It's like, what? When you're done with this, what happens?
Right.
Are you worried about the election after you're dead? No. Nothing matters. You're not worried about the Russians. You're not worried about missiles. You're not worried about asteroids, UFOs, any of that shit. Right. You are just... Alan Watts, I don't know if you've ever heard of Alan Watts, but Alan Watts said something really profound. He said, try to imagine what it's like after you die. Is it just a blackness? Well, you would never know if it's a blackness, because if it was eternal, you would never know, right? And then try to remember what it's like to wake up after never going to sleep. Well, that's when you were born. Yeah. So the whole idea is that the two are connected together, and that there's absolutely nothing to fear at all. Absolutely nothing to fear, and just understanding that part, it enables you to create authentic impact, not just in yourself. That to me is the byproduct of doing it for others, but doing, creating impact for the world. And you just need to know, that even some of the greatest philosophers, Alan Watts had a drinking issue, right?
Sure, he's human, right?
He's human. He's experiencing it, right? And he had a fidelity issue or infidelity issue. Human. We're all human, Right. John F. Kennedy. Shit. Human.
Right. And there's the power in giving yourself grace, right? Forgiving yourself. You said it several times. Forgiving yourself. Giving yourself grace.
Greatest form of love there is forgiveness. The greatest form of love is forgiveness.
I heard one person say the point of life is to love yourself and love others. To simplify it to one sentence: love yourself, love others.
Love yourself and love others, because then that's the energy that you give off, right? And so when you hate yourself, you give off that energy. But to forgive someone, and you don't have to forget, but to forgive, And you know what? Here's the deal: it's your choice at the end of the day. To forget or hold on to it. It really is your choice, and that's kind of I think that's kind of how we started the whole conversation. Is that choice? We have a choice to decide which way to go. And it's not like somebody's making you do it. You have a choice. If you don't like your job, you have a choice. And I think that when you align with who you really are, let's just say, for me, I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do beyond anything. So it doesn't feel like work, right? So when you own your truth, live your truth, you do what you love. When you do what you love, you never look at a watch. You're not questioning whether or not, oh my God, I'm done because I need a work-life balance. There's no such thing as a work-life balance. When you do what you love, it's your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's your life.
Right.
What doctors that love what they do stop being a doctor,
No.
at 5
Right.
o'clock,
Right.
it's like, it
No.
doesn't make any sense. But when you do what you love, you're all in with that. And
Right.
when you're all in with that, you end up doing what you love with people that you love in a place that you call home. And that, to me, there's no greater satisfaction of being able to be in a place where, holy shit, I'm doing something that brings immense joy to me. And one of the things you said earlier is about I think starting joy. You said something about that's when you
Authenticity is the beginning
is
of joy.
beginning of joy. I want to reframe that.
Mm-hmm.
Is authenticity is remembering joy, because you were always joy.
Because joy was already there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Joy, you came into this world with joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You came into this world with love. It
Right.
just got calcified over time with all
Mm-hmm.
this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The nightlife of Deep Ellum,
Right.
all
Right.
that,
Sure.
it calcifies it. And
Sure.
and so the joy has always been there,
Right.
under layers and layers and layers of experiences.
Right.
And it peeks its head now and then. And
Mm-hmm.
it's called the great aha, where it just goes boop. And then you feel that feeling when you look at a sunset, or you see a mother and a daughter holding hands as they walk across the street. It's that momentary sort of experience of joy where you just, for a second, you just take it in, and then all of a sudden, the person behind you honks the horn, and you're back into the life experience again.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that joy that you are experiencing has always been there.
Yeah.
Right. It's just remembering it,
right.
and remembering that that's who you really are. You really are joy at the end of the day, until somebody told you that you weren't.
Right. Right. Man, talking to you, we could go for about 3 more hours if you want. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I know. I gotta get going. I got a bunch of calls lined up.
I know you do.
It was
Thank
great
you for your
talking
time,
to
though,
you,
man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, brother. Listen, man. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Appreciate that.
You know what you're doing, right?
Yes, sir.
And just know that this car that you're driving, just imagine all the experiences that you're gonna have with this car that you're driving, and all the people you're gonna meet along the way, and the places you're gonna go. And I would just leave it at know who you are and go all in with that, man. There's no greater feeling. No greater feeling.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time, David. Thank you for your encouragement, man. Thank you for what you're doing in the world and what you're doing for other people, man. I don't think there's a higher calling that you could even be committed to than helping other people. So my hat is off to you.
Thank you, brother. And thank you for for what you're doing too, man.
Thank you, Mo.
All right. I'll see you, bro.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.